You're listening to Morning Edition on this Monday here on WCBU. I'm Rich Drager. Congressman Eric Sorensen is proposing federal legislation to limit data centers' financial impact on consumers. Sorensen tells correspondent Molly Hughes he doesn't want to drive away data centers.
So look, I think three things need to happen when it comes to data centers. First things first, we need to do it the right way. We need to make sure that there should be no instance where a data center is going to come to town and then cause your utility price to go up, whether that's water or electricity. We need to make sure that data centers use gray water that would otherwise need treatment. We need to make sure that data centers produce their own power, renewable power. That should be connected to every data center. And then number three, they should be sited away from residential areas so nobody is going to hear them. Put them along the interstate into an industrial complex. But also let's understand that if we say no, then that just means that the data center is going to be built in a right-to-work state in Kentucky or Tennessee or Alabama or Texas. I want to see good PLAs attached to these data centers so that we are putting our skilled labor, our union labor to work on these things. So I think that there is a way to do it right. It scares me, though, that some are willing to skirt the rules and go around those. And, I don't support that.
And so you introduced the Energy Bills Relief Act in March, which ensures that data centers are not passing energy costs onto families. Is that going to be enough to keep them responsible?
No, I think we're going to have to make sure that there's guardrails in place. If we were just to say that there was a moratorium, then that means that they're just going to go to China. They're going to build all the data centers in China. Every time you pick up a phone, you're utilizing data, right, in an increasing way. Our phones aren't just taking power when they're plugged into the outlet. They're taking power when we're using them by a lot. We need to make sure as we move forward, especially as quantum comes online, that we're able to harness that energy, harness that innovation, and have Illinois be a leader, but it must not come at the taxpayer's expense.
As the only LGBT member of the House Armed Service Committee, I'm really interested if you believe that the administration's exclusion of transgender people and Hegseth's treatment of women and black service members is compounding the military's readiness and recruitment during an active conflict.
Well, look, I serve on the Readiness Subcommittee. And look, this discrimination does not make our nation better, it doesn't make our communities better, and it doesn't make our military better. We need to make sure that everybody has the ability to serve, and we need to support them. Because if you sign on the dotted line to say that you are going to go to do the battles on behalf of the idea of this nation, you should be protected. And those are the things that I'm able to bring to the House Armed Services Committee because I am the only LGBTQ person that sits on that committee. And there's only been one other person in the history that's ever sat on that committee that's been like me. And so it is important that we're standing up for all of our military. It's all of them.
And to stay on Hegseth, a recent Atlantic article just came out and discussed how Hegseth is part of a church that believes that women should not be able to vote and they have too much power. Does that alarm you?
Of course. Of course. I mean, what this administration is doing is, first of all, they're fleecing the taxpayers, right? People can't afford to fill up their gas tank today. And Hegseth is shooting $40,000 drones out of the sky with $4 million missiles. That's our money. He is doing that flagrantly, but that's also why I have signed on to every war powers resolution, to make sure that they do not have the opportunity to go beyond 60 days, as we're now spending billions and billions of dollars on a war that people don't want, right? And so we need to make sure that that war powers resolution is passed and that there are Republicans that are listening to their constituents to make sure that the war comes to an end so that we don't have to deal with this.
That was Congressman Eric Sorensen speaking with correspondent Molly Hughes following a constituents' town hall in Peoria. You're listening to Morning Edition here on WCBU, Peoria Public Radio, part of the NPR network.